In your collecting space, no one will hear you scream. Here's your look at the new NECA toys. This is the quarter scale Big Chap Alien. Celebrate the 40th anniversary of the original 1979 movie that shocked audiences and jump-started a legendary film franchise. NECA have given a deluxe upgrade to the xenomorph known to fans as Big Chap with an all-new sculpt standing over 22 inches tall. The figure features a hinged jaw that opens, revealing an inner mouth and extends for realistic movie action. It features over 30 points of articulation, including double knee joints and a bendable tail, and extra attention has been paid to the eerie details that made H.R. Giger's design for Alien so mesmerizing. First thing we'll do is get the measurements going for Big Chap. He lives up to his name. He is a big chap. We're going to stop the tape measure right to the very top of his domed head. Now, I'm going to do my best to try to get as much of this in frame as I possibly can, but being the size of the figure as what it is, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. According to the tape measure, though, the figure of Big Chap stands 20.4 inches in height. That's pretty incredible. Switching that to centimeters, however, you're looking at the figure of the quarter scale Alien from 1979 as being 51.9 centimeters tall. Just to show you how that translates, I'm going to bring in one of the aliens that we just recently had a look at. This happens to be the Resurrection alien, just to give you a perspective of how small a standard-sized figure actually is when you compare it against the size of Big Chap. A regular alien, I'm granted standing it at its full, almost its full length leg, goes to about mid-thigh of this giant quarter-scale alien from NECA Toys. The figure may be an upgrade, but the packaging is reminiscent of the original 1979 packaging that would have housed the Kenner alien. An ill-fated toy, unfortunately, that came out just at the wrong time, met very negatively with parents who thought that the toy looked a little on the scarier side. The NECA toy box, though, is an exact replica, though we are not looking at it right now, of the original 1979 box. Currently, if you can actually believe it, I've got the alien in a sitting position, as that was the best way I could get the close enough details of the actual head. And then we'll move our way down from there. The head is just a gorgeous sight to be seen. This is, of course, based on the original Alien, the Big Chap alien. So one thing that's very present on this one is the fact that it does have the smoke translucent helmet. The dome on the top of the head allows you to be able to peek inside and see the inner structural workings of the actual alien, right down to the fact you can see the very scary, very recessed sockets of the eyes staring right back at you. It's incredible the amount of detailing that they were able to put into this. One of an ongoing comment I want to make about a lot of the quarter scale figures is the fact that it gives NECA a larger canvas, if you will, to really incorporate a lot of additional detailings that perhaps the smaller 7-inch variety figures just simply couldn't pull off. This particular alien does feel like it's got a softer lower jaw. This section right here does feel like it's a little bit softer than the rest of the head. When you do drop open the bottom jaw, it does reveal the inner mouth, which, as you can see, does stick out. We can just push that back in, let gravity work in your favor. Just get a load of all the fantastic sculpting and paint applications that they were able to incorporate with such a large piece like this. I mean, it looks like I'm looking at a prop from the film itself. The inner working of the jaw, the smaller mouth, is done in silver, while primarily all the rest of the coloring on Big Chap lends more to browns, grays, and almost off black colors. They're very brownish blacks. You can almost see, and hopefully the camera's going to do proper justice of it, of how much paint application they were able just to incorporate right here. Nice little bit of additional airbrushing happening right at the side of the mouth. The teeth are nice and sharp, and they look like they have a slight pearl color to them. And hopefully, again, the camera's able to pick that up. When you get the figure out of the packaging, there is some assembly that's required. Essentially, what you're putting in is you're putting the tubes on the back of the torso. You're also going to have to put this crest piece right here in place. They very smartly decided that the best way to make the tubes exclusive to one another is that they have their own shapes to them. Let me see if I can actually take one off so I can show you. The shapes are unique to one another, so you know exactly which piece goes which place. I did find some difficulty getting some of the tubes in place, specifically this one right here. I think it may involve me adding a little bit of additional boiling water, specifically to this part right here, to see if I can soften the joint. As you can see, though, it is unique to the one that we just looked at. The shape is completely different, as well as the connector point located on the back is completely different as well. What I really like that they did with the plastic, and hopefully you can see it okay, is they've added a bit of a sheen to the actual surface of the plastic, giving it the sense that it almost has like a slick coat to it, a slimy exterior skin, if you will. We spin this around, and again, still in a crouched position, because that seems to be the best way to capture all of this. Some very nice additional airbrushing of that lighter brown I was talking about. It's almost more a beige color that they were able to incorporate into that. Still, like the main base color seems to probably be like a darker brown plastic, but all this additional airbrushing is really where you start seeing a lot of these detailings actually pop. The only place I've noticed where it's a different type of material happens to be in the crotch section of the alien. This whole section here is a softer plastic, likely the means to hide a lot of the articulation points, especially in the ratcheted legs. We'll talk about the articulation in a second. If I spin it around, though, the whole back section, talking more about that softer plastic material, this is all very much a soft plastic. Again, it's a good way to conceal and hide the joints so you don't so visibly see it. This kind of lends itself well to the idea of this looking more like a movie prop than it does actually a figure. This is one interesting point where you don't get to see this on a smaller scale figure. If you look at the legs right here, or even like this leg right here, the way that they've painted it, you hopefully can see these little lines right here. It kind of looks like actually that the surface, the main skin of the xenomorph, is actually translucent, and you can see the inner workings, the bone structure underneath that. This is all solid plastic. There's no overlayer of skin over top of this, but it's really effective and clever the way that they were able to paint this to give it the indication almost that you could see through the skin here. Now, in the 1979 classic, the original alien was portrayed by an actor inside the suit. Balaji Badeo was the one that actually played the alien. So unlike some of the later released alien films, which relied more on animatronics or in CG cases, this was actually an actor wearing the suit. And I think you see it a little bit more than most when you look at the foot. The foot clearly looks more like something an actor's foot could sit inside. There is somewhat to articulation. There's not a lot, mind you. The feet themselves collectively hinge. There's a hinge joint happening right there. And there's some articulation here as well. One good thing about the figure, if I can tilt it up here, is that they've put peg holes on the undersides of its feet. If you feel like at any point the alien is unstable, you can plug in one of the corresponding, not that it comes included with it, but if you do have a NECA Toys clear display stand, it uses the same peg system, and you can plug that underneath here. Now, I haven't had any real issues with Big Chap standing. Surprisingly enough, his stability is quite stable, being the fact of the way the figure is constructed. Being that this was an original actor inside the suit, it caused, of course, limitations for what the alien costume could actually perform. Hind legs, a familiar sight for future alien designs, completely omitted here on this particular figure because it doesn't have hind legs. Its articulation is only really residing in a double hinge joint in the knee. Don't worry, we'll talk about that in a second. And it also has the hinge joints in the feet, which we've already had a look at. This causes for a much more stable footing, like I said, for this particular quarter scale alien. And it's actually surprisingly more stable than some of the smaller 7-inch variety that we've looked at before. Now, I don't have problems with him standing. If you do pick up this figure for yourself and do have some difficulty getting the Big Chap to stand properly, you can, of course, rely on one thing that's been consistent with all the alien figures that we've gotten from NECA Toys before. Yes, I'm outlining here the wireframe tail that you can adjust and have sort of being as a third leg, a tripod, if you will, allowing the figure to get a little bit more stability. Like I said, I don't really have any issues. For the amount of time that I've been playing around with this figure, I really haven't had any issues with the figure standing. Surprisingly, even though most of its weight is more upright, it's a very top-heavy figure, but it seems to balance things actually quite well between the strength and stability of its legs, the fact it doesn't have additional hinges happening on the backs of the legs with those hind leg bends, and because of the wire frame, all kind of contribute to a well-stable standing alien. So having a look at the figure's articulation, its head rotates left and right, and it also hinges up and down. Actually, it bends down quite a bit, so I kind of like the idea of having the head completely draped down so that you can see the full detailing added to the sculpting on the underside there of the dome. Additionally to that, the mouth does open and close, and like we've already discussed, the inner mouth does slide out quite easily, actually. And you can close that up like that. The top torso does have a full ball joint. You can move that back and forth. Again, while you're rotating, you will feel like all this section here is a softer plastic. I haven't had any issues with that just yet. It does hinge up and down quite easily. And like I said, you can move it back and forth quite easily. The arms hinge out. Now, this is the one thing they're a bit restricted by. The arms can hinge out. This one's a little on the tighter side, but you can only really get a little under a 90-degree angle. That's pretty common practice by this time when it comes to NECA alien figures really as a whole. It's because of the sculpting on the top of the shoulder. Because it butts up against this area right here, it really does limit the arms moving any further out than a little under a 90-degree angle. I don't know if you really necessarily would need the arm to move further past the 90-degree angle, but that's as far as you're going to be able to get with this arm. It does have a swivel on the cut of the thigh, on the cut of the bicep. It's right there. You can move the arm back and forth. It does have a single hinge. It only seems to have a single hinge in the actual arm section. And you can rotate the forearm. And of course, you can rotate the Xenomorph's hands. And you can hinge those back and forth like that. I know I mentioned this already, but one of the things I also like that NECA Toys did do for the big chap is that it did put ratcheted joints. This causes a much more stable leg for this particular figure, especially for how top heavy it is. It does ratchet forward and back, and it also ratchets out. It does have a double hinge on the knee. And we'll just straighten up out like that. And of course, as we've already looked at, the feet have four toes all on one single hinge. You can see how well they've hidden the hinge amongst the rest of the sculpting of the foot. And then it does have a rock back and forth, hinges up and down, and you can also pivot or rock the ankle back and forth like this as well. Now, you know me, I'm not as big the collector of the quarter scale figures as maybe the next guy. Generally, I'll stick to 7-inch variety, and it simply only boils down to space. Don't kid yourself, believe you me, if I had the space available, which seems to be dwindling every single day, but if I did have the essential space available, I would be plunging into the world of quarter scale figures and picking those up more frequently, because the proof is in the pudding. There's a whole lot more detail and paint applications that they were able to put into this piece versus your standard 7-inch Xenomorphs. I mean, even like look at the skin on the actual legs. Not so much the arms, but more on the legs. If you look at that, I could swear to you that that skin was translucent, and you could actually see the bone structure underneath all of that. This figure is incredible, and again, I don't collect a whole lot of quarter scale figures, but I couldn't pass the chance on getting the quarter scale alien, and I'm so glad that I did. The detailing on this guy is incredible. In fact, looking at him, I know there was an actor portraying the Xenomorph in the '79 classic Alien film, but if he had told me that at any point they would have used stop motion or a puppet, I could definitely believe that a figure like this would have been used because the detailing on it is that good. We are now into 2020, so with 2020, of course, we're going to get new figures from NECA Toys. Had this come out in 2020, which I don't believe it did, it was just at the very end of 2019, I could have easily labeled this one as the figure of the year from NECA Toys. The detailing on this is so good. Do yourself a service if you haven't picked this one up already and you're an Alien fan. You are missing your chance to add one of the coolest Alien figures I have ever seen, and most definitely one of the coolest figures I think NECA Toys have produced for Xenomorph. If you did manage to pick up this one for yourself, let me know down below in the comment section what you guys think of it. Pretty incredible. Big Chap is pretty big, cool. That doesn't make any sense, but it's pretty cool nonetheless. Also, if you guys are interested and you haven't done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Digging this guy's content so early into 2020, thank you. We're going to hopefully have a whole bunch of stuff coming your way, a whole bunch of new NECA reviews coming your way. So keep your peepers peeled for that. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.